Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe vom SI-Talk und ich habe jetzt eines der meist erwarteten Interviews, die ich auf meinen Trip hier im Jänner in Vancouver führe. Garth Braun, Blackbird Energy. Wir sind schon sehr lange dabei. Conflict of Interest, ich bin Aktionär, muss ich gleich vorweg sagen. Und es gibt natürlich einige Leute, die sind frustriert, weil nicht wirklich was weitergegangen ist scheinbar bei der Aktie. Plus muss ich allerdings sagen, und das sage ich gleich vorweg, das letzte Jahr war für Ölaktien nicht das Gelbe vom Ei. Das war wirklich eine schlechte Zeit und die meisten Ölaktien, obwohl der Ölpreis gut performt hat, haben nicht wirklich performt. Das ist einer der ersten Fragen von mir. Garth, thank you to have time. And I said in my German introduction, I have a conflict of interest.
Yes.
And you're one of the most wanted interviews from my subscriber side. I get a lot of pressure also. A lot of people are not really happy with the performance. I say, I'm in general not happy with my whole performance of my all oil stocks. The last 12 months was not really nice for the oil stocks. But when you look at the oil price itself, it was an unbelievable year for the oil price. But the oil stocks underperformed the whole market.
Yes.
So do you have any idea why the market don't see the potential of oil? Is it coming maybe up from this electrical thing that the most people say, okay, in 10 years we don't need longer oil, then we drive all electrician cars, and the energy is coming out of the grid and nobody knows where it's coming in. But what is your feeling?
Well, let me start by saying is number one, the energy sector within Canada has definitely been under pressure. We're about 30% underinvested compared to the standard.
Yeah, and but also US is also. We have a lot of stocks there in the US. They're doing not well in the oil sector.
I can't specifically, some of the companies have done well.
For sure, you have always some companies.
Yeah, and I think there's a leverage issue there. There's a debt issue. There's bankruptcy, but I can speak to, the Canadian market in that. One of the big problems that we've had in Canada is that we produce too much gas. Mm-hmm. And the dry gas producers have really been under pressure. If they were selling their gas and delivering it only into, let's say, from British Columbia and Alberta to Alberta, we call that ACO pricing, there's been some real challenges. In fact, ACO at sometimes in the summer and in the fall here has actually gone minus 22 cents per MCF. What that means is that if you produced them 1,000 feet of gas, that gas would cost you 22 cents to sell. In addition, you'd pay your transportation, which could be 20 cents, so you'd lose 42 cents an MCF. What that has done is the dry gas producers have really lost value, and that has put on the index a major reduction. Mm-hmm. And this is some very, very substantial, well-run companies that have had compression. So you have, number one, the energy sector getting that pressure. What I would focus your investors into is what is differentiated in the marketplace, what is getting attention, and I will tell you is there is one component that is getting a lot of attention, and that's condensate. Mm-hmm. We've talked about it. Blackbird is very much focused on condensate. Condensate and WTI has definitely moved up. We're very happy with it. I think it's going to stay in this range, somewhere between 55 to 65. Some people feel even 70. Last week we were selling condensate near $80 a barrel.
Wow.
Okay. Now there's
why you get the premium compared to WTI?
Well, it's a real interesting question. We get a premium to WTI because in Alberta, every single day we need to bring in between 2 to 250,000 barrels of condensate because we're undersupplied that needs to be mixed with our heavy oil so we can ship it.
Yep.
There's actually a chart out by Peters & Company, one of our premier investment banks in Calgary, in Canada, that actually talks about demand side. And so every single day we're undersupplied. So that differential off the WTI is that where do we get that extra 2 to 250,000 barrels? We bring it in from Texas, we ship it up, and that is an actual transportation differential. And in actual fact, what we saw in December was we got a $3.50 premium off of WTI. Mm-hmm. So WTI plus 350, then the foreign exchange. January it looks to be about $1.88 is the differential. We'll see. It'll be reset in February, but it continue, and we don't see that diminishment of demand for several years into the future.
But the condensate is only the sweet spot for the Canadians.
Yes.
So, and that's good, and you are in Canada.
Well, and in fact, the condensate corridor is a very limited corridor. I've talked to you about that the liquid-rich corridor, which Blackbird has for both the upper and the middle Montney, and we believe the lower, is very liquid-rich because this condensate is present in this area, and this is mainly through all the due diligence that we've done in regards to identifying it. And our recent well results are demonstrating that we have some of the most liquid-rich wells in the corridor. We have 3 more wells coming that are testing it. So I think that, just coming back to your base question, why has our stock not moved or been compression? You have an industry under compression. But I think one of the things that we're really focusing on is this component of, okay, differentiating ourselves over this near term, over the next 45, 60 days, that we are this liquid-rich asset. We've got 3 well results coming out. We've just signed a major processing agreement with Tidewater that ties into processing our liquids and our gas and opening up our drilling inventory.
Before we come to your production, then, since our last interview, you are now in production with around 2,000 barrels. But before we come
and
into
55% liquids-rich condensate. 75% of my revenue is coming now from my condensate. Only 25% is from my gas.
Okay, but before we come into more details, you bought this 114 section very cheap, roughly 20 million. So can you say something? In the last few months, there are some acquisitions, some consolidations in your area. So can you say what the numbers are and who are involved in this area and what they pay for per
Number one is there's been 2 major consolidations to the south of us. One of them was the Apache lands, which was 72 sections that came up and it touched the bottom or the southern portion of Blackbird's lands and went south. It is prospective for both middle and lower Montney. Apache was looking to sell those lands to concentrate capital into their Permian portfolio. A number of companies came forward to look at it. One company came in, extremely well-run company by the Riddells. It's called Paramount Resources. Banks have reported on it. It's not my numbers. They're indicating that they may have paid, with assumption of liabilities, cash, around 1.2 billion, somewhere in that area, or 7.1 million.
For 72 sections.
For 72 sections. About
you have 114.
I have 114.9 net to Blackbird. Now, that is an assumption of liabilities, and it's not my number. What is the benefit of that transaction? Way more than what they paid. Paramount is going to get very active in drilling it. They, I understand, are going to bring in between 6 to 8 rigs full-time to start drilling on this to meet their production commitments for 2019. So the delineation is going to be substantial. To the best of my knowledge in discussing with my engineers, when that asset, those 72 sections were sold, there was approximately 9 wells that had been drilled on that land.
Oh, 9 wells?
9 wells.
Sounds like you have also drilled 9 wells.
Yeah, well, actually we have 16 in total, but 9 specific to Blackbird. So this is what's really impressive, that it didn't take a lot of delineation to actually build that value. Now, what happened directly to the east of them, Shell Canada, came in and it consumed the remaining land base that Chinook Energy had, and now we have Shell directly to the south of us. Actually, Shell comes right into our land base. They have land within our land base, which I would love to buy, and then they have Paramount. These are 2 premier operators, and I don't have details on what Shell paid Chinook. I don't know the assumption of liabilities related to it, so I can't speak to it. But here we have 2 tremendous companies that are going to be very active. And Shell has been drilling both upper, middle, and lower Montney wells in this area. And that's a very significant. One other thing, which is really key, is that last year, there were 120 wells in our corridor, right around Blackbird, that were drilled or rig released. This year, we're into 2018, this is January, there's 180 wells licensed already.
Wow.
So the volume of drilling that's coming to our quarter is increasing dramatically. Why? Because condensate gives yield. I talked about Blackbird is producing about 2,000 BOE right now, 55% liquids, 75% of my profits come from the condensate or my revenue. That's the driver. That you can be economic in this compressed market of gas prices with condensate. Now, just to the west of us, I've talked about them, very well-run company, Pipestone, is owned by Riverstone and the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund. They've been active right beside us. And recently, a very well-run company called Celt Exploration, run by a fellow named Dave Wilson, sold his last company for about $3.8 billion to Exxon. That was Celtic, spun out a portion of it, created Celt. They've now assembled a large position right to the north of us. So we really now, the major land capture is done. I think the delineation of the resource is really coming into place with what we've done. And what we're really at the late stages of is that our resource is overpressured, meaning that it's like a balloon that you've put your pressure on that likely gives greater pressures to pull your hydrocarbons out. Our area is looking more and more like it is fully overpressured for the upper and the middle and for sure the lower.
Okay. So that's what's the plan now for 2018?
2018 is number one is we're going to finish testing our 3 wells.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just actually finished testing a well. I can't speak about it. That was an Upper Montney to the west side. We're now moving to a Middle Montney well that we initially completed about 5% of the well bore. And just on that initial completion of 5%, that well produced about 398 barrels of condensate and 250,000 feet of gas. The condensate level was just impressive for us for only 5%. Now, you can't do the math and say, okay, well, if you only got 5%, this should be this well. But we have now completely completed that well. We're going to start flowing this well back tomorrow.
Okay.
Now, it could take us 7 to 10 days to just test it. That's going to be a major delineation of our middle, where we have a pressure test on it, so we're going to know how overpressured this well is. Then we're taking our testers up north, and we're going to test our Upper Montney well, which is what we call the 3 of 27. We're most excited about it because of the fact that it is very near Encana's wells that have been very productive, CNRL or C&Q that had very productive, and a recent test by Celt that came on at 1,600 BOE, about 1,000 barrels of condensate, and 1.5 million feet of gas. We're right in there. Now that well that Celt had is a longer well, ours 2,200, that was a 3,000 meter well. But we're very excited about what potentially the liquids are coming out. These wells will be delineation wells, and they'll also describe the pressures in the formation that is on the outer edge, which we're quite comfortable now with further wells that are in there that we're fully overpressured.
How many drill locations you have in this area?
Right at the present time, we're working on north of the Wapiti 32 well pads. Okay, I can't give you an exact inventory of wells because we haven't reserved off of it. We've always focused on, we have 4 intervals, and we've always worked with our engineers on 4 wells per interval. Encana, right beside us, 3 miles away, has 5 pads that they're now drilling on a spacing of 100 meters.
Okay.
What that means for your investors is that they're now drilling on the upper level 14 wells per interval. 14 wells. We've been reserving on 4 wells per interval, and they've downspaced to 100 meters to demonstrate that the productivity of a well within 100 meters of each other is the same as if it was 260 meters. That's how trite and productive the resource is. So that's changing, and Encana talks about doing what's called cube development. So there may be 14, and then they would have an inset. So it's like a wine rack. The average may be 7 or 9 wells per interval overall. But let me put it this way. There's a tremendous amount of drilling inventory that would be available. If we can prove this all up, it could be in the range, and I'll say potentially, this is a bit of a forward-looking statement, between 1,600 to 2,200 wells. Okay, so a substantial amount of inventory. This is really being led by Encana with its development, also CNRL, but ourselves. We haven't done downspace drilling yet, so it's difficult for us to reserve until we downspace.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, I should jump in. You asked me, what are you planning for the rest of this year? Well, number one is obviously test these wells. Number two, we're busy getting right-of-ways, well pad locations, so that we can tie into where we're gathering our gas to the new processing facility that we've just contracted with Tidewater. Yeah. This is a major amount of work. Our main plan is that we're actually going to kick off our drilling to prepare for production in 2019 right around June, July of this year. Okay, that's when we'll actually kick off our major drill program. Might be a little earlier, we may accelerate it to March. And the fortunate thing is that we have the financial ability. Blackbird has no debt, so we have tremendous flexibility, and I have the ability to expand my reserve-based lending facility to allow me to proceed without having to do a dilutive financing. So our focus is get our right-of-ways in, test our wells, begin to establish all our pad locations, drill this year, to make our commitment for early next year. What we'll end up doing is we'll drill these wells, and then in the latter portion of this year, we'll come back and start completing them all. So the exposure on cash is actually quite late term this year.
And you're starting, did you create a cash flow with your existing production?
Yes, in January it looked to be, in December, it looked to be about a little over 2.8 million was our revenue stream. We continue to see that, it's going to vary with commodity prices, but we do cash flow now. So that's a very big positive for us.
So it's good for the dilution in the future. But coming to a realistic point, you are a small company. So and you're surrounded by big companies. To be realistic, is there any chance to survive independent?
Well, there's always an ability to survive independent. I think what the better question may be is, Garth, the CEO of this company, how best do you think shareholders would perceive your actions, and what would you do to accelerate value to them to give them a better return? And I know my shareholders are saying is Garth, your stock price is here, we'd really like to accelerate it. Well, one of the benefits is in a depressed market where gas prices are really tough, the interest is coming forward, and no one can force us to sell. We have the ability to hold this, but it is looking for an opportunistic method that management doesn't impede the acceleration of value to our shareholders through potentially a takeover.
Now, I think maybe we see a window in the oil space for in the next 6, 9, 12, 18 months, especially with this higher oil price. And I see no really reaction on the market so far. But if we're going up to $65 WTI, I think a lot of money coming back.
Yes.
And maybe the overall market is only stable and not growing like the last 18 months and so on. Then the people looking for investment opportunity. And the investment opportunity is for sure the oil market, is for sure also the resource market. I think that's also an indication this conference is very well attended. Compared to last year. Last year was a disaster, and this year is unbelievable how many people are here. So it's, for me, the first signs that we are maybe running in the bull market. So in the bull market is always good. First, it brings higher share price, but it brings also up takeovers.
I think one thing, and you've nailed it, Joe, I think this is one of the periods where it's the first time that we're seeing synchronized growth worldwide. This growth isn't being driven by leverage. It's not being driven by debt. It's actually growth. Within Europe, we're growing. The United States is growing. People are getting employed. Canada's starting to get very much employed. Asia is growing. And so we have this fundamental growth that's occurring. And so as a result of this growth, demand is coming. I actually think we're heading into a commodity cycle. I don't know whether, and I would be always cautious to say, I could see oil breaking out again. I like where oil is at this present time. It's very profitable for us. The question becomes how supply comes in to service this marketplace. But we're actually indicating, Saudi Arabia's oil minister today talked about that there's a growing demand every single year of 1.5 million barrels of oil, inclusive of the introduction of more electric cars and green energy. There's a continued growth, and as a result of that, what Saudi Arabia has done through Saudi Aramco of curtailing 260,000 barrels of production is actually make them $250 million more every single day. So that curtailment has been a real net benefit. So it gives them encouragement to continue to work with Russia and the balance of the members in OPEC to continue to stay curtailing. The one other thing is this, is what we're finding in the United States and Canada is everybody looked at certain corridors and said, oh, this is a very oil-rich corridor. What we're finding in the Permian specifically is there are sweet spots, just like there's sweet spots within the condensate corridor, there are sweet spots of oil, but as you step away, it becomes gassier. And as a result of that, the economics on the gassier wells are going to be less than the oil. So therefore, I'm not saying that there won't be real productivity. I think the Americans are going to continue to ramp up, but they also want to have an oil price that's probably around $55 is their kind of their economic cutoff. So we're in really a great place right at this present time. I would say something that is, for Canada, condensate is the product. And I can tell you is whatever condensate we produce, we can sell it to northern Canada, up into the oil sands very readily, and we get this premium pricing. That demand isn't going to be short term. This is not something that closes out. The weakness in gas prices is not getting resolved for another 24 months at minimum. So there is urgency with a number of companies to seek a solution. One of those solutions is let's go buy a better, more productive asset that's economic. That, I think, is a huge advantage to Blackbird. And also is that you have a management that's aligned with shareholders that says, oh, I don't want to do this because I might lose my job and I don't know what I'm going to do after that. That is not what I'm worried about. We've built this company up to this point. We're really getting achievement in regards to infrastructure, takeaway, egress, the wells. Now is the logical to actually to begin discussions of seeing what we can do to accelerate value for our shareholders. That happens this year.
Garth, I think this was a great update. Good luck for the next drill holes and the results. And I'm happy to be shareholder. And maybe this is a great buying opportunity.
Well, I think that's something that investors have to look at and make for their own determinations. What I can say is that if you've watched back at Blackbird build, here we are, a company that's built up over 114 sections and done a tremendous job of putting this together for $20 million. And now in the liquid-rich corridor and corridor takeaway and these different things, you have a management that has been dead focused and committed to take this asset across the line. I have had 40 to 50 offers to diversify and pick up other assets and become deflected with other opportunity, which would have potentially reduced the value of our company, put on debt, different things. We are in a perfect position not to have that. So we're ready to execute this year, I hope. And thank you to all my investors in Europe, specifically Germany and Austria, Switzerland, for staying on board with Blackbird. We're committed. We're going to try to continue to build the value in this company, and we're positive.
Value to build it up is always a good thing.
Yes, thank you.
Ja, das war jetzt ein Update von Blackbird. Bringen wir es auf einen kurzen Punkt. Also in der Umgebung, es waren mehrere Keypunkte, die jetzt eigentlich wichtig sind. Erstens einmal, sie sind in Produktion, 2000 Barrels rundherum. Zweitens, sie machen Kondensat. Kondensat haben sie jetzt im letzten Monat verkauft für $80 pro Barrel. Warum ist Kondensat so teuer in Kanada? Weil sie es aus den USA importieren müssen, damit sie es mit ihren Heavy Oil blenden können, damit sie es wieder dann runter transportieren können zum Verkaufen ihr Heavy Oil Stuff. Blackbird ist in diesem Condensate Area drinnen und das ist genau der Treiber für den Preis des Unternehmens. Warum der Aktienpreis natürlich nicht wirklich gelaufen ist, liegt vor allem natürlich am Markt selber. Keiner ist so frustriert wahrscheinlich wie ich, denn der Ölpreis selber ist gut, allerdings die Ölaktien selber performen überhaupt nicht. Und der Grund, warum das so ist, liegt halt einfach daran, dass halt der Gaspreis, sehr viel Gas ist immer involviert, sehr niedrig ist und die müssen teilweise draufzahlen bei ihrem Gas, wenn sie es verkaufen, und dadurch ist die ganze Branche sehr depressiv. Da könnten sich natürlich einige Änderungen machen, aber was natürlich auch zählt, ist, dass sie halt in diesem Korridor drinnen sind, der sehr kondensatreich ist. Wenn nicht sogar ist Blackbird das Unternehmen, das am meisten Kondensat produziert überhaupt. Er sagt, 3/4 seines Umsatzes kommt aus dem Kondensatverbrauch, der Rest kommt aus dem Gas. Es hat auch Übernahmen gegeben in unmittelbarer Umgebung für einer. Und zum Beispiel hat Paramount den Anteil von Apache gekauft, Shell hat Chinook gekauft, und zwar teilweise zu Preise, die enorm sind. Also bei Apache, er hat nicht gesagt, das sind nicht seine Zahlen, sondern das sind Zahlen, die von Banken veröffentlicht sind, haben die 72 Sektionen für uns ungefähr 1,2 Milliarden bezahlt. Sie haben 114 Sektionen. Er glaubt, dass sie je nachdem, wie sie zwischen 600 und 1200 Bohrlöcher bohren können. Das Wichtigste ist, dass sie auch das Gathering-System, also das System, dass sie das ganze Gas auch verkaufen können, mitten auf ihren Grund durchläuft. Sie haben einen sensationellen Deal und der muss jetzt exekutiert werden. Ich habe ihn auch gefragt, Sie sind ein kleines Unternehmen, wie hoch sieht er denn die Chance aus, dass Sie überhaupt eigentlich überleben? Er sagt, eigentlich muss man es umgekehrt die Frage sein, was ist das Beste für einen Aktionär, wo können Sie den meisten Wert generieren fürs Unternehmen? Und Sie sind sicher nicht das Management, das auf seinem Job unbedingt beharren will, wenn ein guter Deal kommt. Warum sollen Sie ihn auch nicht machen, wenn es einfach einen Shareholder Value kreiert? Und das ist eigentlich, glaube ich, der wichtigste Punkt. Shareholder Value ist das Maß aller Dinge. Der Aktionär soll von der ganzen Entwicklung profitieren. Sie haben einen sensationellen Job gemacht, 114 Sektionen kaufen für 20 Millionen. Das ist einfach ein unglaublicher Deal. Und jetzt geht es um die Exekutierung. Und wenn halt ein Großer daherkommt, der halt das nehmen will, was ich persönlich, glaube ich, erwarte, weil ich glaube nicht, dass man halt möglicherweise das selber ausbaut, sondern da will einfach ein Großer den Kuchen haben. Und er hat selber gesagt, es gibt so viele Firmen, die auf den falschen Gebieten sitzen, weil sie zu viel Gas produzieren. Die suchen händeringend Gebiete, die sie akquirieren können, damit sie ihr Produktportfolio aufbessern können und ihre Aktionäre glücklich machen können. Und da ist Blackbird natürlich ein 1A-Deal. Wir werden sehen, was in der Zukunft passiert. Ich bin optimistisch und eigentlich ist dieser depresste Aktienkurs eigentlich ein ideales Kaufzeitpunkt. Wir werden sehen, nächstes Jahr, was so dementsprechend rauskommt bei der Aktie. Ich sehe ein Gas ja des Öfteren und dann werden wir einfach ein Update machen und hoffentlich sind die Ergebnisse genau das, was wir uns erwarten, und hoffentlich zieht auch noch ein bisschen der Ölpreis an, dann sollte das eigentlich auch wieder laufen. Garth, thank you for your time.
You bet, absolutely. Thank you.